Okay, merci, thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at today's technical briefing on Canada's COVID-19 vaccine rollout. I'm here with Major-General Dany Fortin, Vice President of Operations and Logistics at the Public Health Agency of Canada. We will each provide brief remarks and then open the floor to questions. To assist us in answering your questions, we have with us Dr. Supriya Sharma, Chief Medical Advisor, and Dr. Marc Berthiaume, Director of Medical Science, both from Health Canada, and also joining us is Joelle Paquette, Director General responsible for vaccine procurement from Public Services and Procurement Canada. To date, more than 2 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been administered in Canada. 3.6% of Canadians have received one dose, and 1.4% have received two doses. In the past week, provinces and territories have administered more than 397,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines. This is the highest number of vaccines administered in 1 week since vaccination began in mid-December. Since our last technical briefing, Health Canada has authorized the AstraZeneca vaccine. This additional vaccine option enables millions of people in Canada to be protected against COVID-19 faster. The AstraZeneca vaccine is a vaccine with high efficacy. It is safe, and evidence shows it provides protection against very serious disease and death. Health Canada has one of the most rigorous scientific review systems in the world and only approves vaccines that meet its high standards for safety, efficacy, and quality. In addition, Health Canada and the Public Health Agency of Canada's robust and continuous post-market safety surveillance system will capture all reports of adverse events following immunization with authorized vaccines. This system leverages and builds on the trusted infrastructure and systems already in place for monitoring seasonal influenza and other vaccines. Also of note yesterday, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization provided a recommendation that, where vaccine supply is limited, jurisdictions can delay administering second doses by up to 4 months. In doing this, they will be able to administer first doses to more people sooner. This recommendation is based on clinical trial reports and emerging real-world evidence from around the world. Data shows that several weeks after being administered, first doses of vaccines provide highly effective protection against symptomatic disease, hospitalization, and death. You have likely noticed that NACI's recommendations are sometimes different, possibly broader or narrower than the conditions of vaccine use that Health Canada has authorized. As the regulator, Health Canada authorizes each vaccine for use in Canada according to factors based on clinical trial evidence, whereas NACI bases its guidance on the available and evolving evidence in a real-world context, including the availability of other vaccines in Canada. What we expect is that NACI recommendations will complement, not mirror, those of Health Canada. NACI will continue to monitor evidence on effectiveness of a delayed second dose and will adjust recommendations as needed. And as announced earlier today, in consultation with our international regulatory partners on the Access Consortium, Health Canada has developed guidance for modifying authorized COVID-19 vaccines in response to new variants, outlining steps to measure protection by looking at the antibodies in the blood following vaccination and eliminating the need for lengthy clinical studies. This guidance will lead to important outcomes: safe vaccines tailored to emerging variants, manufactured and made ready for use in significantly reduced time. As the vaccine rollout expands within Canadian populations, all of us must continue to do our part to slow the spread of COVID-19 and variants. Even after you receive the vaccine, you could still spread the virus to others. So I urge everyone, even after you get your vaccine, to continue to adhere to public health measures such as social distancing, wearing a mask, and washing your hands frequently. They do make a difference. Thank you. Bonjour à toutes et à tous et merci de participer à cette séance d'information technique sur le déploiement des vaccins contre la COVID-19 au Canada. Je suis en présence de Major-General Dany Fortin, vice-président de la logistique et des opérations à l'Agence de la santé publique du Canada. Nous vous présenterons chacun certaines informations, puis nous passerons aux questions. Pour nous aider à répondre à vos questions, la Dr. Supriya Sharma, conseillère médicale en chef, et le Dr. Marc Berthiaume, directeur du Bureau des sciences médicales, tous deux de Santé Canada, sont aussi présents. Nous sommes également en compagnie de Joelle Paquette, directrice générale responsable de l'approvisionnement en vaccins de services publics et approvisionnement Canada. Jusqu'à présent, plus de 2 millions de doses de vaccins contre la COVID-19 ont été administrées au Canada. 3,6 % des Canadiens ont reçu une dose et 1,4 % en ont reçu deux. La semaine dernière, les provinces et territoires ont administré plus de 397 000 doses. C'est le plus grand nombre de vaccins administrés en une semaine depuis le début de la vaccination à la mi-décembre. Depuis la dernière séance d'information technique, Santé Canada a donné son aval au vaccin d'AstraZeneca. Cette option supplémentaire permettra à des millions de personnes au Canada d'être immunisées contre la COVID-19 plus rapidement. Le vaccin d'AstraZeneca est très efficace. Il est sûr et les données probantes montrent qu'il procure une immunité contre les maladies graves et la mort. Santé Canada dispose des systèmes d'examen scientifiques les plus rigoureux au monde et n'approuve que les vaccins qui répondent à ces normes élevées d'innocuité, d'efficacité et de qualité. En outre, le système de surveillance continue et fiable de l'innocuité après la mise en marché de Santé Canada et de l'Agence de la santé publique du Canada permettra d'obtenir tous les rapports d'événements indésirables suite à l'administration des vaccins autorisés. Ce système s'appuie sur les infrastructures et les systèmes fiables déjà en place pour la surveillance de la grippe saisonnière et d'autres vaccins. Il convient également de noter qu'hier, le Comité consultatif national sur l'immunisation, ou le CCNI, a émis une recommandation selon laquelle, lorsque l'approvisionnement en vaccins est limité, les autorités peuvent retarder l'administration d'une seconde dose de 4 mois au maximum. Ce faisant, ils pourront administrer une première dose à un plus grand nombre de personnes plus rapidement. Cette recommandation repose sur des rapports d'essais cliniques et sur des preuves concrètes provenant du monde entier. Les données montrent que, plusieurs semaines après avoir été administrées, les premières doses de vaccins procurent une immunité très efficace contre les maladies symptomatiques, l'hospitalisation et la mort. Vous avez sans doute remarqué que les recommandations du CCNI divergent parfois des conditions d'utilisation des vaccins que Santé Canada a autorisées en étant plus ou moins permissifs. En tant qu'organisme de réglementation, Santé Canada autorise l'utilisation de chaque vaccin au Canada en fonction des facteurs fondés sur des preuves issues d'essais cliniques, tandis que le CCNI fonde ses directives sur les preuves disponibles et émergentes dans un contexte réel, y compris la disponibilité d'autres vaccins au Canada. On s'attend à ce que les recommandations du CCNI viennent compléter et non refléter celles de Santé Canada. Le CCNI continuera de surveiller les preuves de l'efficacité d'une deuxième dose tardive et adaptera ses recommandations en conséquence. Et comme nous l'avons appris plus tôt aujourd'hui, Santé Canada, en consultation avec ses partenaires internationaux en réglementation de consortium accès, a émis des directives pour modifier les vaccins autorisés contre la COVID-19 en fonction des nouveaux variants. En décrivant les étapes à suivre pour mesurer l'immunité et examinant les anticorps dans le sang après la vaccination et en éliminant la nécessité de longues études cliniques, ces directives permettront d'obtenir des résultats importants. Des vaccins sûrs, adaptés aux nouveaux variants, fabriqués et prêts à l'emploi en un temps considérablement réduit. Même si le vaccin arrive dans les populations canadiennes, il nous faut tout de même tous continuer à contribuer au ralentissement de la propagation du coronavirus et de ses variants. Même après avoir reçu le vaccin, il est encore possible de transmettre le virus à d'autres personnes. J'invite donc tout le monde, même ceux qui ont été vaccinés, à continuer de respecter les mesures sanitaires telles que la distanciation physique, le port de masque et le lavage fréquent des mains. Ces mesures sont efficaces. Je vais maintenant inviter le Major-Général Fortin à nous faire part des développements concernant la logistique de déploiement des vaccins. Merci.
Alors, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Good day, everyone. We have distributed nearly 3 million doses of vaccines to provinces and territories to date. Yesterday, Health Canada announced that it has authorized a submission for Pfizer-BioNTech to allow its COVID-19 vaccine to be stored at standard pharmaceutical freezer temperatures for up to 2 weeks instead of ultra-cold conditions. So this change in handling conditions provides our provincial partners with added flexibility for movement and storage of the vaccine. The increased flexibility may enable a wider distribution of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines to vaccination centers where ultra-low temperature freezer infrastructure and reliable access to dry ice are not currently available. New developments such as this provide us with the opportunity to tailor deliveries to meet the unique needs of each region or community. As for vaccine deliveries, we expect to receive shipments of 444,000 each week this month, and that will round out the commitment, Pfizer commitment of 4 million doses to the provinces this quarter. Shipments in the first 2 weeks of April are expected to be around 769,000 per week, and provinces are placing their orders. As for Moderna, we expect receiving our next shipment of 466,000 doses next week. The second shipment will be 846,000 doses, arriving the week of March 22nd. This brings the total doses delivered this quarter to over 2 million. April allocation details for Moderna are not yet available. However, we're working closely with Moderna on ensuring that we have a consistent and adequate supply. And once we have those numbers, they will be communicated. Yesterday, Canada received an initial 500,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine manufactured at the Serum Institute of India. The Vaccine National Operations Center is working with provinces to determine a delivery schedule at this time. So the provinces are all interested in receiving this vaccine. We issued allocation tables to provinces, and they will submit their orders shortly. Additional doses and deliveries of those vaccines, those doses are expected to begin early next week. Additional doses will arrive from India in the coming months, as previously announced, with 1 million doses approximately in April and 500,000 expected in May. Those doses will have a longer shelf life. In April, we're anticipating a steep increase in vaccine availability. This includes 23 million doses of both Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines between April and June, and at least 1.5 million doses of the AstraZeneca Serum Institute of India vaccine arriving by mid-May. More vaccine doses may come online, and we will continue these quantities, communicate these quantities when we have visibility on expected shipments. We continue to enhance province and territories' cold chain capacity and build national resiliency by acquiring a wide range of freezer and enabling equipment. So we're confident we're still well positioned to receive increased shipments of authorized COVID-19 vaccine, and we remain on track to have enough doses available to offer vaccine to every Canadian who wants it by September. So rest assured that more than ever, we are closely coordinating with all stakeholders to ensure that appropriate infrastructure and trained personnel are ready to receive and store vaccines throughout the country, and that we support the best we can provinces and territories in their vaccination plans and the scale-up starting next month and beyond. Alors, bonjour à toutes et à tous. À ce jour, près de 3 millions de doses de vaccins ont été distribuées aux provinces et territoires. Hier, Santé Canada a annoncé l'autorisation d'une demande de Pfizer-BioNTech visant à permettre à leurs vaccins contre la COVID-19 d'être stockés à des températures de congélation standard près de 2 semaines au lieu des conditions ultra froides à moins 80. Cette modification des conditions de manipulation offre à nos partenaires provinciaux une plus grande souplesse pour le transport et le stockage du vaccin. Cette flexibilité accrue pourrait permettre une distribution plus large des vaccins de Pfizer-BioNTech au centre de vaccination où les infrastructures de congélation à ultra basse température et un accès continu à la glace sèche ne sont pas actuellement disponibles. De nouveaux développements tels que celui-ci nous donnent la possibilité d'adapter les livraisons aux besoins spécifiques de chaque région et de chaque communauté. En ce qui concerne la livraison des vaccins, nous prévoyons toujours 444 000 doses par semaine pour les 5 semaines du mois de mars, soit un total de 4 millions de doses pour les provinces ce trimestre. Et les expéditions des 2 premières semaines d'avril devraient s'élever à environ 769 000 doses par semaine, et les provinces sont en train de passer leurs commandes au Centre national des opérations. Quant à Moderna, la semaine prochaine, nous prévoyons recevoir une livraison de 466 000 doses. La deuxième livraison sera de 846 000 doses et arrivera dans la semaine du 22 mars. Ainsi, le total des doses livrées ce trimestre sera au-delà de 2 millions de doses. Les détails de la répartition pour le mois d'avril ne sont toujours pas disponibles, mais nous travaillons en étroite collaboration avec Moderna pour garantir un approvisionnement régulier et adéquat. Et dès qu'on aura les quantités pour avril, elles seront communiquées. Hier, le Canada a reçu un premier envoi de 500 000 doses du vaccin Oxford AstraZeneca fabriqué au Serum Institute en Inde. Le Centre national des opérations pour les vaccins travaille avec les provinces actuellement pour déterminer le calendrier de livraison des vaccins au cours des prochaines semaines. Les provinces sont toutes intéressées à recevoir ce vaccin. Nous leur avons soumis leur allocation ce matin et attendons leur commande sous peu. Et la livraison de ces doses devrait commencer au début de la semaine prochaine. Les doses supplémentaires arriveront de l'Inde au cours des mois à venir, soit 1 million de doses sont attendues en avril et 500 000 en mai. Ces doses auront une durée de conservation plus longue. En avril, nous prévoyons une forte augmentation de la disponibilité des vaccins, telle qu'annoncée précédemment. Alors, on parle ici de 23 millions de doses de Pfizer, BioNTech et Moderna entre avril et juin, et au moins 1,5 million de doses d'AstraZeneca provenant de Serum Institute d'ici la fin mai. D'autres doses de vaccins pourraient être mises à notre disposition et nous communiquerons ces quantités lorsque nous aurons une visibilité sur les expéditions prévues. Nous continuons à renforcer les capacités des provinces et des territoires en matière de chaîne du froid et à renforcer la résilience nationale en acquérant un large éventail de congélateurs et d'équipements de soutien. Alors ça continue. Et nous sommes donc convaincus que nous restons en bonne position pour recevoir un nombre accru de vaccins autorisés contre la COVID-19. Et nous sommes dans la bonne voie pour disposer de suffisamment de doses pour offrir le vaccin à tous les Canadiens qui le souhaitent d'ici septembre. Alors, soyez assurés que plus que jamais, nous travaillons en étroite collaboration avec toutes les parties prenantes pour veiller à ce que les infrastructures appropriées et le personnel formé soient prêts à recevoir et à stocker les vaccins partout au Canada. Nous soutenons du mieux que nous pouvons les provinces et les territoires dans leur plan de vaccination et pour l'intensification de la vaccination à partir du mois prochain et au-delà. Merci beaucoup. Disposé à répondre à vos questions maintenant.
Thank you. So we'll now take your questions. As usual, you can get one question and one follow-up, but please use your phone or a headset rather than the speakerphone so we can hear you properly. Vous pouvez poser vos questions, une question et une question de suivi dans la langue officielle de votre choix. Et s'il vous plaît, je vous demanderai d'utiliser votre téléphone ou un micro-casque plutôt qu'un haut-parleur. Cela aidera tout le monde à bien entendre votre question. Opérateur, à vous la parole.
Thank you. Merci. Please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur étoile 1 maintenant pour poser une question. You may cancel your question at any time by pressing star 2. Vous pouvez à tout moment annuler votre question en appuyant sur les touches étoile 2. The first question is from, la première question est de Marie Vastel de Le Devoir. Please go ahead, à vous la parole.
Oui, bonjour. Ma première question, je suis pas certaine si c'est pour le Major-Général Fortin ou le docteur Berthiaume. C'est sur Johnson & Johnson. Vendredi, vous disiez qu'on s'attendait à une décision très bientôt. Je pense que c'était vos mots, qui serait selon un échéancier semblable à celui des États-Unis. Donc, comme ça a été approuvé aux États-Unis, pouvez-vous nous dire quand vous attendez une décision plus précisément? Et puis, est-ce qu'on sait déjà quel serait le délai pour les premières livraisons, une fois que ça serait approuvé, vers quelle date on attendrait des premières livraisons?
Merci pour la question. Donc, je vais commencer ici, c'est le Dr Berthiaume. Donc, le vaccin de Johnson & Johnson devrait être approuvé dans les prochains jours. Il reste encore là, quelques petites choses à finaliser, donc on devrait avoir des bonnes nouvelles dans les prochains jours. Pour ce qui est de sa disponibilité à venir, je vais laisser cette réponse-là au Major-Général Dany Fortin.
En fait, c'est Joelle Paquette à l'appareil. Nous allons, une fois qu'ils ont l'approbation, on s'attend à recevoir les 10 millions de doses de son accord bilatéral d'ici le 30 septembre de cette année.
Merci. Est-ce qu'on a, par contre, une idée plus précise, là, à part le 30 septembre, de quand les premières doses, à tout le moins, pourraient commencer à arriver au Canada? Et le fait qu'il y ait une entente entre Merck et Johnson & Johnson, je sais que c'est aux États-Unis, pour l'instant, il n'est pas question d'envoyer des vaccins, mais est-ce que vous avez une indication à savoir si ça pourrait, par contre, libérer d'autres usines puis permettre d'accélérer la livraison du vaccin Johnson & Johnson, le fait qu'il y ait cette entente avec Merck? Et puis, si vous pouvez être plus précis sur les premières doses, à tout le moins, là, qu'on attendrait. Quand?
Ben, nous travaillons en collaboration avec Johnson & Johnson sur son calendrier de livraison nous allons avoir, lorsqu'on aura l'information, nous allons le divulguer au public, mais la livraison pourrait commencer à compter du deuxième trimestre. En ce qui concerne la entente avec Merck, c'est pour les livraisons de vaccins aux États-Unis et nous travaillons avec Johnson & Johnson sur la manufacture des doses qui sont en cours pour le Canada.
Merci. Next question.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from. La prochaine question est de Mia Rabson from the Canadian Press. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Hi, I'm just wondering, Major General Fortin, you talked about the provinces putting in their orders for vaccines, and my understanding was that up until now it was generally all distributed by sort of a per capita distribution. Has that changed, and are we now making decisions on that some provinces will get different, not per capita distributions, or how is this going to work?
Yes, thank you for your question. It's, in fact, we agreed, and provinces agreed to a per capita allocation. And I'm talking AstraZeneca and Serum Institute here. Provinces have agreed to a per capita allocation. We endorse this. The territories have decided to opt out because of the variables that they contend with in the north. They have Moderna doses, and they have enough provided this quarter to vaccinate the intended population of 75% of the adult population. So we're in the process now of, in the provinces, having received their allocation. They had a tentative quantity, but now they have a confirmed quantity distributed across the 10 provinces, and they are putting in their orders, identifying the vaccine delivery sites where they want this shipped to. We're coordinating at all levels so that FedEx NMR, our logistics service provider, provides the doses at the right time, right place over the next days.
Okay, I'm still a little confused by the idea that they're putting in orders versus per capita. But my second question is for Dr. Njoo. I asked you this last week, and I'm wondering if there's an update yet on how well we're doing getting that sixth dose from Pfizer, if there's any concerns that that's actually been a problem or if it's been going smoothly.
I'll answer part of the question, but I'll also leave it to Major General Fortin because I know he's working closely from a sort of an operational aspect with our colleagues in the provinces and territories. Certainly to date, we've done the educational seminars, we've done the training. Certainly the delivery of the low dead volume syringes has certainly supported the provinces, territories in extracting that sixth dose on a sort of consistent basis. We're also reaching out in terms of getting information about their actual experience on the ground in terms of extracting that sixth dose consistently. And certainly from my perspective and information that I have available, I haven't seen any consistent issues or problems or challenges in that regard. But I'll turn it over to Major General Fortin to give further details.
Yeah, so some jurisdictions have reported being able to consistently draw the 6 dose with the equipment that is provided, with the syringe that they have and the techniques that they use. And reports on drawing on vaccine drawings are voluntary from the provinces, but so far no major issues were reported. No major issues on their end. So we continue to monitor that. We've been administering for a couple of weeks now with the 6 dose and the appropriate equipment. So it should be good. Hey, I want to go back to your first question and just want to really clarify this because obviously I didn't make it clear. If we tell a province this is the quantity you expect to have, the province now has to tell us how they want this delivered and where. And that's the process of putting the orders in. And then we'll coordinate with the shipping company, the logistics service provider, and get that to the right place at the right time.
Merci. Prochaine question.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from La prochaine question est de l'Inadib de la presse canadienne. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Oui, bonjour. Ma question est pour vous, Monsieur Fortin, au sujet d'AstraZeneca. Vous dites que toutes les provinces sont intéressées à recevoir le vaccin, les doses que vous avez reçues hier. Il y en a 500 000. Il y a 300 000 de celles-là doivent être données avant le 2 avril. Est-ce qu'il y a des provinces qui vous ont dit on veut de l'AstraZeneca, mais pas celui qui va expirer trop vite? Vous les distribuez comment, les 300 000 là, qui sont présents?
Oui, merci. C'est une excellente question. Alors, les 300 000 doses qui expirent effectivement le 2 avril sont distribuées d'une façon équitable, per capita, à toutes les provinces. Alors, tout le monde reçoit 60% de leurs doses avec cette date de péremption.
OK. Et les 200 autres 1000 qui sont arrivés hier, est-ce que eux aussi ont une date d'expiration peut-être après le 2 avril, mais quand même assez rapide? Et pouvez-vous m'expliquer, si c'est pas vous, peut-être, Dr Berthiaume, comment ça se fait que ce vaccin-là, qui a une durée de vie de 6 mois, on peut en avoir acheté qui finissent dans 1 mois? Je comprends pas quand est-ce qu'il aurait été fabriqué.
Je vais répondre à la première partie de la question. Alors, tous les vaccins ont une date d'expiration. Et puis, c'est vrai pour tous les cas. Alors, ça ne fait pas exception pour les vaccins de COVID-19 et de vaccins de Serum Institute. Effectivement, 300 000 arrivent à échéance dans 1 mois. Les autres, c'est en juin, fin juin. Et puis, je ne suis pas certain que j'ai la réponse à propos de la durée de vie du vaccin. Je vais laisser le Dr Njoo répondre à ça ou mes collègues de Santé Canada.
Oui, merci. Ici le Dr Berthiaume. Je peux répondre en partie à la question. Donc, le vaccin d'AstraZeneca a une conservation de jusqu'à 6 mois à température réfrigérée. On ne peut pas vous dire exactement quand est-ce que les doses ont été fabriquées, mais j'imagine que si elles viennent à échéance bientôt, c'était possiblement il y a quelques mois. Je ne sais pas si Mme Paquette a d'autres détails là-dessus, mais c'est l'information qu'on a. Donc, les doses ont probablement été fabriquées à l'avance, puis sont en phase de distribution. Ce qu'on peut peut-être ajouter, c'est qu'évidemment, 1 mois, ça semble court, mais quand même, ces vaccins-là, les vaccins qui sont distribués aux provinces, sont quand même généralement assez rapidement inoculés. Donc, ça devrait bien fonctionner. Je ne sais pas si Mme Paquette a d'autres informations, mais en ce qui me concerne, là, c'est ce que je peux vous dire là-dessus.
Exactement. Nous avons eu ces vaccins-là de Serum Institute et on a la capacité ici au Canada d'inoculer dans les délais une fois livré. Et donc, nous avons accepté une échéance plus écourtée.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from La prochaine question est de Justin Ling from Freelance. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm afraid this is a bit of a wonky question. I think it's probably best suited for procurement. It's about the use of 2D barcodes on the shipments and potentially the vials of vaccines we're receiving. It's my understanding that really no point of the supply chain is able to scan those barcodes. Other governments are using those barcodes as a way to reduce waste, to improve efficiencies, and to attract the vaccination effort. Am I right in thinking that neither the federal government nor the provinces have the capability to scan those barcodes? And is there any hope that that capability may at some point be added over the course of the vaccination campaign?
So thank you for the question. I'm not aware of this issue, and we would have to get back to you on that.
Okay. Yeah, just I guess a really brief follow-up that might not have an answer to it. But the 2D barcode was a requirement that we put in our Novavax contract that was released not through the Canadian government yesterday. Are you aware of us including that requirement in any of our other contracts?
Again, I am not able to disclose that information.
All right. Prochaine question.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from La prochaine question est de Mike Lecouteur de Global News. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for taking our questions. I just wanted to ask you, according to some estimates, and the math may be off, but it'll show that we get about 32 million doses of vaccine in Canada by June. So if we include the extra delay between doses that many provinces are seeming to be going with, how significantly, in your estimation, either Dr. Njoo or Major-General Fortin, could this change the timeline of having every Canadian vaccinated by September? Could this be much earlier?
It's Dr. Njoo. Maybe I'll start. Yes, certainly. We've had very good active discussions with our counterparts, the chief medical officers of health of the provinces and territories at our special advisory committee, and we've gone through sort of the calculations, the figures, looking at the dose interval, and if it were to be increased based on our anticipated delivery of vaccines in Canada, and looking at obviously the sequencing of the priority populations, what the impact would be in terms of the actual administration of vaccine. And you're right. If you look at it, the timelines would shift, and we would be able to cover the vast majority of the Canadian population, or the same population, in a advanced timeline, or moving it up by several weeks. So yes, that's sort of the quick answer from a public health perspective. Thanks.
Follow up.
Before I follow up, did Major General Fortin want to weigh in, or?
Well, I don't have a whole lot to add to what Dr. Njoo laid out. I think more vaccines early is good news. We'll see how that is processed at all levels in provinces, but you could anticipate that we can meet that target effectively and sooner. But right now, we're planning against September. Canadians who want to have access to vaccine will have received a vaccine. And I think for now, on 4th of March, that's a pretty good target.
So then, just as my follow-up, this is more for potentially Dr. Sharma and Dr. Njoo. Do public health officials worry that by following this recommendation to extend the time between the two doses to 4 months, without any real-world evidence, that we could possibly increase vaccine hesitancy because there's no hard science out there to prove that this actually works, and there are already a number of people who are worried about the vaccines?
It's Dr. Njoo. Certainly, I can start. I would question the premise of your question about lack of real-world evidence. That's the whole reason that our National Advisory Committee Immunization made its most recent recommendation with respect to dose interval. I think Dr. Sharma can speak to the fact that the actual approval of the Pfizer-Moderna vaccines was based on clinical trial data, which had certain timeframes involved, and certainly that was the initial sort of recommendation for how the vaccine should be administered with a certain dosing interval. But now, as we're actually accumulating real-world evidence in terms of the experience from multiple countries around the world, the UK, United States, Israel, and so on. And the fact that it's been shown that you get very good protection after the first dose. So that's already established. The other point also is that the second dose, just in terms of general principles of vaccinology and immunology, has shown to sort of boost the sort of the durability or sort of the length of protection. But certainly, based on the experience and the data we have to date that obviously NACI's looked at, there's been no drop off significantly in terms of the protection, the duration of protection. Obviously, we'll have to keep monitoring the data. But based on the real world data and also other considerations, that's what NACI sort of considered in coming up with their recommendation. It's all happening very fast. And before I turn over to Dr. Sharma for any additional comments, I would say that NACI actually met last week, I think it was late last week, to actually look over the data. They actually had presentations from people, I think maybe internationally, but certainly from Quebec and British Columbia. So we have real world data as well here in Canada. They made their deliberations. They then presented to the Chief Medical Officer of Health at the Special Advisory Committee, even on the weekends. We're working around the clock, and based on the good presentation and the recommendation that they anticipate making publicly, obviously, even after Sunday, it takes a bit of time to go through the process of actually putting forward a sort of the public statement, which came out yesterday. What happened then is that some provinces, based on their logistical issues, the actual having to plan clinical appointments and so on, have come out publicly in terms of moving forward with obviously the good information and evidence that they heard on Sunday. And so you're seeing that play out in real time with various provinces already coming forward with their thinking based on the information and the evidence that the NACI presented on the weekend. So I think I'll leave it at that. And I'm sure Dr. Sharma, if you have any additional comments?
Sure. Thanks, Harold. So the original question in terms of concerns around vaccine confidence and vaccine hesitancy, obviously we're very concerned about that. We want to make sure that people have confidence in the decisions that are being made about vaccines, whether it's at the level of the regulator or broader recommendations from NACI or at the provinces and the territories. And what I would say is that, it's really important that people know that this is going to be changing. Right, we're in this place now. We have multiple vaccines that are authorized. We have huge mass vaccination campaigns that are ongoing around the world. And the responsible thing to do is to make sure that we get all that information and incorporate that into our decision making. So definitely the messaging would be simpler if we had one set of data and we had one message and it never changed. But that's not what science does. So we want to make sure that we get all that information, we apply it appropriately, and then we make those decisions. And, we have to take into consideration not only purely the studies, but what we're getting, as we said, from real world use, what we have from expert opinions, what we know about other vaccines. All of that comes together to provide the recommendations about which vaccines, are best for Canadians and in what intervals. And then we have to continue to evolve those and change those as we get more information.
Yeah, it's Dr. Njoo. Maybe I'll just add on. I think Dr. Sharma and Dr. Berthiaume are being very sort of modest on behalf of Health Canada. I think if you're looking broadly at the issue of vaccine hesitancy, I think there's multiple aspects that help build Canadians or reinforce Canadians' confidence, I would say, in vaccines in general. First of all, obviously, our regulatory system is one of the most stringent in the world. So any vaccine that's approved in Canada has certainly passed the test in terms of both safety and efficacy and quality and so forth. So I think that's step number one. Certainly public messaging, what we're doing with press conferences to show Canadians that, science evolves and we're always there to look at the latest evidence and make sure that we use it to the best advantage to ensure that health and safety of Canadians. Another important thing, I think, is that the Canadians, in terms of vaccine confidence, look to their trusted sources. And we know from surveys and so on, that the healthcare providers are their trusted source. It's not that someone's going to come to me personally. I think they would trust probably their family doctor more, who they know for many years. And so part of our job, I think, is to make sure that the frontline healthcare providers have the best tools and information available so that they can confidently explain and have good conversations with their patients to ensure that they make informed choices about getting vaccinated. And of course, we recognize that, we live in the social media world. So I think in terms of engaging with community leaders in certain groups, having them also bring others on board by getting vaccinated, showing the example, maybe putting a clip on YouTube and so on, I think also helps. And I think and the other final part is that I would say that there's also a role for the average Canadian. I think all of us appreciate that there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation out there. And I think we all, individually have a bit of a responsibility not to sort of get sucked in by clickbait and so on, and not to add to the sort of the viral sort of dissemination of things which obviously are not credible in terms of scientific information. So I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from. La prochaine question est de Anne-Caroline Desplanques de Le Journal de Montréal. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Oui, bonjour. Merci de prendre ma question. Je ne sais pas à qui pourrait s'adresser ma question, peut-être à approvisionnement ou au Major-General Fortin. AstraZeneca s'est vu bloquer des doses destinées à l'Australie aujourd'hui par l'Union européenne. J'aimerais savoir, je sais que nos doses d'AstraZeneca ne proviennent pas de l'Union européenne pour le moment, mais comment est-ce que ça se passe pour les livraisons relativement au nationalisme vaccinal et aux empêchements à l'exportation?
C'est Joelle Paquette. Merci pour la question. À présent, nous travaillons en étroite collaboration avec nos collègues et pour assurer une livraison des autres de l'Europe et aussi, si jamais, aux États-Unis. Et nous avons réussi à date à recevoir tous nos livraisons comme prévu. Merci.
Puis en suivi, oui, allô?
Qu'est-ce que j'allais dire? Question de suivi?
Oui, en suivi, les prochaines doses AstraZeneca doivent provenir des États-Unis. Celles de Johnson dont vous avez parlé en début de conférence, est-ce que on sait maintenant d'où est-ce qu'elles vont provenir? Et est-ce qu'on a reçu de la part de l'administration Biden des garanties quant à la permission d'exporter des doses produites aux États-Unis, au Canada, quelles qu'elles soient, AstraZeneca, Johnson ou autre chose?
Merci. Pour Johnson & Johnson, nous continuons à discuter avec eux sur la livraison et la distribution, et ils doivent toujours recevoir l'approbation de Santé Canada. Mais entre-temps, nous continuons à avoir des discussions avec eux. Nous discutons aussi avec nos collègues dans l'administration de M. Biden, le président Biden, pour assurer que le Canada continue à recevoir leurs doses provenant des États-Unis. Merci.
Thank you. Merci. Next question.
Thank you. Merci. Once again, please press *1 if you have a question. De nouveau, n'hésitez pas à appuyer sur étoile 1 pour toute question. The next question is from. La prochaine question est de Tom Perry de CBC News. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Hello, thanks for taking our questions. I'm just wondering if I could get some clarity from Dr. Sharma. When does Health Canada expect a decision on Johnson & Johnson? Is it this week? Is it next week? I guess just what's the latest timeline on that?
Sure. So the review of the Johnson & Johnson submission is going very well. It's progressing, and we're expecting to have that completed and a decision in the next few days. I would say within the next 7 days or so.
Within a week, then, you figure?
That's right.
Okay. And just speaking on timelines, for Dr. Njoo, do you have an estimate for when every Canadian who wants to be vaccinated will get their, at least one shot, will get their first shot? Do you have a timeline for that?
At this point, I think, things are moving quickly. And as I indicated earlier, we're having live discussions looking at calculations. I think, the position that our Prime Minister put forward that, every Canadian who wants to be vaccinated will certainly have the opportunity by the end of September. I think that that's still sort of the goal. And if we actually are able to do that earlier based on, getting more vaccines approved, getting greater supply, all the better. But at this point, I think we still have to do our due diligence. And I don't think at this point, we'll put forward venture an actual data until we actually have more precision with all of the factors in play.
Thank you. Next question. Prochaine question.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from, la prochaine question est de Annie Bergeron-Oliver from CTV National News. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Hi there. Thank you for taking the question. CTV has learned that about 1,500 doses have been wasted in Ontario since December. I'm wondering how concerning is that to you to hear that 1,500 doses at least, and only in one province, have been wasted, considering the fact that we are actively trying to get as many people, especially vulnerable Canadians, vaccinated as quickly as possible right now?
So this is Major-General Dany Fortin. Maybe I can speak to this. Provinces and territories are invited to share with us progress on immunization, as well as any issues with wastage, any issues with administering the 6th dose of Pfizer. The number you're indicating is far higher than the number that we're tracking, so we'll have to look into this. But I can tell you with confidence that the numbers over the 3 million doses that have been brought in country right now are extremely low. Some of the wastage can be explained by at least one failure of a freezer. This is several weeks ago now. This was all easily resolved, and additional shipments were sent to that location once that was repaired. But I am not tracking numbers at that level, so we'll look into this.
Follow-up?
So do you have any numbers in terms of what the estimate of vaccine wastage is across the country? And sort of along the same line, what kind of numbers are you seeing in terms of uptake of the vaccine? I read one study recently that said only about 15% of healthcare workers in long-term care were getting the vaccine. What kind of numbers are you seeing across the country right now in terms of people who are saying no, they do not want one?
Sorry for the delay. I think that's a question that's best answered by my colleagues.
Yeah, it's Dr. Njoo, and like I say, certainly we've had obviously ongoing discussions with the provinces and territories. I'm not sure Major-General Fortin and other colleagues what kind of data they're tracking in terms of the actual uptake. Certainly the sense I've gotten, and this more sort of a general sense that our discussions at the Special Advisory Committee is that overall the uptake is good. People are excited, Canadians in general, healthcare workers and so on, that we have a greater number and a choice of vaccines that provinces can use to their best advantage, and the supply is growing in terms of the doses coming into the country. So I don't see that as an issue. What I also see is that it's a bit of a snowball effect. As people see more and more of their, be it colleagues, friends, family, and so on, getting vaccinated, it breeds success. Like people go, oh wow, they got their vaccine. I think I want to get my vaccine too. So I see this as all positive, and I haven't really heard on a consistent basis any issue or problems and challenges as far as quote healthcare workers, as you indicating, refusing or not wanting to take the vaccine. But we can look further into that, and if there's any other data available, we can certainly pass that on to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Prochaine question.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from, la prochaine question est de Alison Martel de Reuters. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Thank you. What is the current impediment to importing Johnson & Johnson vaccine doses made in the United States to Canada? Is it the executive order that was signed by President Trump last year on vaccine prioritization? Is it something in the U.S. procurement contracts, or is it really up to Johnson & Johnson's leadership alone?
Thanks for the question. This is Joelle Paquette.
There is no impediment that we are aware of for them to deliver doses from the U.S., but at the moment, we are still in discussion with Johnson & Johnson to determine where their doses will be coming from and the delivery schedule. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any difference in the situation with AstraZeneca? Is there any impediment there?
There is no difference, and there is no impediment that we are aware of. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the end of our technical briefing. If you have additional questions, please contact the Public Health Agency of Canada at hc.media.sc@canada.ca. C'est la fin de cette séance de briefage technique. Si vous avez des questions additionnelles, je vous invite à contacter l'Agence de la santé publique du Canada à l'adresse hc.media.sc@canada.ca. Bonne journée. Have a good day.